Welcome back to Ham Radio Essentials, and today I'm back onto technical subjects and I'm going to be talking about my antenna system. I live in a bungalow in Edinburgh which was built in 1928. It's a very common type of building here in Edinburgh, and it's cut into the side of a hill. It's actually the edge of Corstorphine Hill, but at the Craigleith side, if you know Edinburgh. When I moved in here, I put in a long wire antenna with a 9-to-1 balun. That was quite long. It was about over 20 metres long. And it worked quite well on 40 metres. Conditions were quite poor because of the sunspot cycle. But it didn't work too well on the higher frequency bands. And because I was operating at weekends, I wanted access to the work bands because of the contests. So I put in an antenna for 17 metres. And that antenna has gradually expanded to cover 20, 17, 12 and 10 metres. And now I am going to show you where it is. Now, if you were to look at the outside of my house, you would not see any aerials at all. And that is because the aerials are in the attic. So I've got a torch here and we're going to go up and have a look and see what they look like. And before I go up the ladders, I should tell you that in the year ending 31st of December 2024, so it wasn't quite the peak of the sunspot cycle, I worked 102 countries on this antenna system. That was a mixture of CW, SSB and FT8. It was about a third each. I then got to 130 countries within another 3 months of that as conditions got better, and well past 150 now. So here we are, coming into the attic. Now, HF antenna. What we've got here is an LDG 1-to-1 balun, and off it is coming 3 elements, dipole elements. One of those is for 17 metres, one of them is for 20 metres, and one of them is for 12 metres. Now the antenna also works on 10 metres. Originally it was a dipole for the 17 metre band, and then I extended it and added these extra elements during the COVID period to give me the other bands. And it doesn't need a tuner on those bands. It also works on 10 metres without a tuner, for quite a complex reason, which I will explain when I show you the diagram. So you can see the elements. I'll put my torch on. The elements go down to various points. There you go. The elements go down to various points. You can see that one's got an extension on it, going down that way. And I'll show you what that's about. So this was originally a 10 metre dipole element coming down to an end insulator. And what I've done here is extend it and add a loading coil. Now, the size of that loading coil is really just to do with the length that was possible here and the position of the coil. I used an online calculator to calculate that, and because it's indoors, it's just wound in a cardboard toilet roll tube, and I have the same on the other side, and that gives me the bottom half of the 20 metre band without a tuner, so that's extremely handy. Okay, I'm now going to draw a diagram to show you how this aerial works. It started off with a coax feed which went into the attic, and it went to that point where you saw it. Move this along slightly. And at the top of that I had a dipole centre, and off that I had a half-wave dipole for 17 metres. And if you want to calculate that, it's 143 divided by frequency will give you the length of the dipole in metres, and then you have to divide that by 2 to get the length of each side. And obviously, you normally have end insulators on here. Not really necessary with this sort of power level that I'm running, but you might want to. Then during COVID, I decided, as part of my noise reduction work, to actually put a balun in here. So I put a 1-to-1 LDG balun in here. And the 17 meter dipole, I don't think I needed to adjust it at all when I swapped it over. Then I added a 10 meter section. So in parallel to this, I put a 10 meter dipole. I'll write 17 meters on here. I added a 10 meter dipole onto here because I thought I'd quite like to do 10 meters. It turned out there wasn't much on there. So that's about 2.5 meters per side. Then I had this crazy idea that I was going to do 12 meters, and this is where it went wrong. I added a 12 meter dipole on here, and there was terrible interaction between the 12 meter and the 10 meter sections. How that exhibited itself was really weird reactances, strange VSWRs across the two bands, and it didn't matter what I did to tune these. If I made this longer or shorter, it made no difference at all. I could never get it in the 10 meter section in tune. So I abandoned the 10 meter section and actually disconnected it up here. I went back to 12 and 17. And then one day I thought, I'm going to do 20 meters, but there isn't an easy way to fit a 20 meter dipole in there. So what I did was I extended this slightly and I added coils. And then I extended it here to an end insulator. And it's about the same length as the 17 meter dipole. Move that slightly so you can see it. I can't give you an exact figure for the inductance here because I had to calculate it in relation to the lengths here and here. I'll put a link in the description to a calculator for kind of working that out. However, there has been a byproduct of this, which is that it appears that this coil is acting as a choke, and that this section from here to here is resonant on 12 meters, and that this 12 meter dipole has now been pulled up to run on 10 meters. So without a tuner, I have got most of the bottom half of 20 meters. I've got the whole of 70 meters. I have the whole of 12 meters. And it does tune on 10 meters, 28 to 28.5. But I don't get out well on that band. And I think that's just because it's a false SWR reading and there's something strange going on. I haven't put an antenna analyzer on it to test it. So it certainly runs 12 meters, 17 meters and 20 meters. And the idea was to get me in the work bands at weekends when I wasn't working. But it was nice to have 20 meters when conditions were not quite as good. Now, I've worked all over the world on this antenna. I did 102 countries in a year. The 1-to-1 balun is rated at 100 watts. I normally don't run more than 50. I run about 10 watts or 20 watts on FT8, so it's fine for that. I hope this gives you some hope that it's possible to have an antenna system that works indoors without you having any antennas outside. One of the advantages of this has been wind. We've had 100-mile-an-hour winds here in Edinburgh this year, and we get 2 or 3 times a year when we get 70 or 80-mile-an-hour winds, and my antennas haven't been affected at all. So it would be better to have an outdoor antenna, but something like this worked quite well, and part of the reason for that is the height of the ridge of our house is about 7 or 8 meters. So on the 12 meter band, we are more than a half wave, and on 17 meters, we're getting on for a half wave as well. Also, with it being an inverted V dipole, you do tend to get slightly lower angle of radiation compared to a horizontal dipole. So that's another advantage of this. The downside of this antenna system is noise. And what I haven't shown you, and I'll do this in another short video, is I put a line isolator here. And that stops any interference that's being picked up on the outer of the coax getting into the receiver. This has been crucial part of getting rid of my HF noise problem. And putting that balun in there also decoupled the coax. So the coax is completely neutral all the way down. It's not picking up any signal or transferring any interference in there back to the radio. So I hope that's given you some encouragement that you can operate HF without an outdoor antenna. I'm still using this system and working all over the world. The bands were pretty much closed on Sunday. The maximum usable frequency was showing about 12 megahertz. I put a call out 24 megahertz and someone in Connecticut came back to me. That's about 2,500 miles. So it's entirely possible to use a system like this for DXing and all sorts of operations. There's an old saying that the best antenna is the one that you can put up today. So don't hang around. And all that's left is for me to say 73s from Scotland, from GM4 SVM. Bye for now.